trying to, if people can see and hear this, we are just trying to make sure that everything is working tech wise. I'm not 100% sure it is, and we also want to make sure that that everyone's got the opportunity to come in. But like I said, here we go. It might be working now. Yeah, I think lovely. I've got a bit of feedback, and I believe we're live on YouTube as well. So let's get the YouTube working. Yes, we are live. So, Andrea, thank you for joining. Andy, would you like to come off mute if that's cool? How are you doing?
I'm fine. Hey, Scott. Nice to see you again. I'm very sorry, but I'm having a little bit of an issue with my camera. Can anyone see me?
Well, I tell you what, I can't see you, but hopefully people will be able to soon. So I'm just going to share the link of the live in the All for Inclusion groups, and then we'll get going.
Excellent. You just let me know.
But yeah, we should be on LinkedIn. I haven't got anything to say we're not on there, and I'm just going to put this in the Facebook group on with All for Inclusion as well, and we'll give people a couple of minutes. But how's your day been, Andrea? Because you've been pretty busy, haven't you?
I have. Gosh, today has been phenomenal. It has been non-stop all morning, not to mention the heat. So, yeah, down here in London, it is a whopping, what is it, 31 degrees down here at the moment, and
Yeah.
absolutely sweltering.
Wow. Yeah. It seems like my it says here in my house that it's 28 at the minute, and yeah, I struggle with anything when it gets into double figures, really. So so yeah, that's always tough for me when it's hot. It really exasperates my health conditions and things like that. So it's never fun. It's never fun, but
Oh,
it is what it is. So
it is indeed. And, as a woman of a certain age who's quite clearly perimenopausal, the heat is not exactly conducive to calming down any sudden hot sweats or attacks. But you know what? I think we all just try and battle through it as best we can, really.
yeah, yeah, that's it. So ooh, it's I'm not sure if we are live on LinkedIn, but we should definitely be on YouTube. But if not, we'll just get going because it's recorded, and we can chuck it in places anywhere, anywhere afterwards. But I want to keep an eye a little bit on any questions that might be coming in. So
Come on, YouTubers, don't be shy. Come on, drop us your questions.
yeah, so for those who don't know, World Health Organization, 78 years it's been going, and today is the date where they first published a report which shows loneliness as a thing, a medical condition. So it is something that people can now, you know, governments and people like that will be going and will be asking people to subscribe or to get diagnosed and put plans and things like that in place. So it's really important, where um, especially where a lot of people are concerned, because it has a knock-on effect to your back, your hair. It has a knock-on effect to mental health. It has a knock-on effect to physical health. It has a knock-on effect to income as well. So it has a real range of things that it can it can impact people with. So it's really good that it's now out there. There is a report. It is recognised. I was involved in leading some of the panels that took place, the focus groups. Didn't put anything into the report myself, but the report, first of all, is called the report on social connection. Now, if you was looking at a report and it said social connection, first of all, what does that mean to you? What does social connection mean to you?
So I think that social isolation is not. People think it's a personal thing. It's not. It's very much a structural issue. If somebody is compromised in some way by age or social anxiety or disability, let's make it broader, whether or not they are LGBTQIA plus, whether or not they are women, or, carers. It's a real structural issue. People don't get the kind of links and interaction that they need and then become bereft of it. So it's such a structural issue. Would you agree?
Yeah. So, like, one of the things that they mentioned really was that social connection is more of an umbrella term, and within the social connection, you've got two things. You've got social isolation, and you've got loneliness. And there's a lot more detail on loneliness than social isolation. Social isolation, I guess, is the lazy version of what loneliness is. So social isolation means you are isolated. There is no one. Where it's that phrase, you can be lonely in a crowded room. So that is more where loneliness comes into it. Um, so what are your kind of, when people sort of talk about loneliness, what groups do you think are sort of mostly affected and mostly impacted?
Gosh. Okay, so I would say I would say there's a couple of key groups, okay? One, and the group that perhaps I know of the best from my years being a community nurse, are people who are of in their older years. There is a
Mm,
lot of isolation there, and I think that we were made a bit more acutely aware of things like that through
yeah.
campaigns on TV and looking out for your elderly neighbors and things like that. But there's the other group which is stigmatized for no fault of their own. So, like I see, people who have disabilities, people who are LGBTQIA plus, single parents, those of no fixed abode, sex workers. Those people are isolated from society through absolutely, through circumstance, but they have very little control over anything. And
Mm,
as a consequence, people give them a wide berth, which makes them feel even more lonely. There was an underpass in Croydon, I'll tell you this, the last job I had working for an NHS organisation, there was an underpass, and I used to go pass there every day from the train station across to the bus stop. And all along this underpass, people from the Bronx know what underpass this is, were people of no fixed abode. And I used to buy muffins and just leave them there and wander off because I wanted them to know that somebody somewhere cared enough to give them something.
Yeah.
It's almost like if you, like I keep saying, are LGBTQIA plus, especially those who do not jive with the gender to which they were born, AFABs and AMABs, assigned female at birth, assigned male at birth. The queer community is really under threat at the moment. And, it's easy for people who are cisgender to just turn their back and not be good allies and therefore isolate people even more. Sorry, my little girl's just come in from school.
No worries. I knew the timing would happen. That
Right?
Yeah, I knew she would. I knew she would be coming home now. So yeah, it's like one of the things that I didn't kind of click when they said about social connection was about the social isolation and the loneliness as two separate things until they said it today. And actually, when they went through some of the areas that of people that suffer with loneliness, so loneliness is how they would describe loneliness is it's really when your relationships don't match who you are or what you need. So as a result, you might not have any relationships, you might not have any friendships, but if you do have friendships, they don't match who you are, what you want, or what you need. Hence, you can be in that crowded room and be lonely. So with loneliness, they said that young people are most at risk of loneliness. Disabled people, people living alone, and migrants. People who've kind of immigrated into different countries, and they were the sort of four areas of that. Now, over 60, when people, I've got sweat running into my eyes, by the way, because it's so hot. People over the age of 60, they've got less data for. So because they've got less data, they know there's social isolation there, but they don't know so much about the loneliness.
Big drink.
Right, so we've got a comment here from Barbara, so I'm going to read it out whilst I'm trying to get the sweat out my eyes. I think there's also an issue with society now since Thatcher making things about the individual rather than community. There's a tendency to, in today's society, to blame the individual, and this came up actually as well. It was all about it being fixing loneliness it shouldn't be about sort of fixing an individual person. It's about unifying people, about bringing people together. And it's not an individual's problem, it's a societal problem. Society's sort of causing this with there not being enough communities out there. And there was one person who spoke right at the end, and he said, like, you need to find people who you trust and build, and that's the build connections with, and that's the only way to feel safe. So you don't feel safe, you don't have sort of loneliness. You won't not feel lonely if you haven't got people that you can trust and build relationships with. So that's a really community-led thing.
Yeah, absolutely. But I want to throw a spanner in the works. Shall I make it difficult?
Go on.
How? Gosh, how would somebody who has had no understanding, like the person said, Margaret Thatcher, making it about the individual and not about community. So we have a massive generational gap of people who perhaps have always been taught to look after number one, have always been taught to look out for themselves and put their needs above the needs of others. How do we close that gap to ensure that we can come together as a community?
Well,
It's a tough one.
yeah, and we're in this world where it's like dog eat dog, and people trying to, if someone's building something, someone's competing against them and building against them, when actually, when it comes to certain things, would it be better, instead of trying to be someone's competition, to be their cheerleader, to help promote what they do, to stand alongside them, to support them? And when it comes to community-based things like, trying to reduce loneliness, that's the way, because fixing loneliness isn't around, or should never be around, income. So yeah, it's really about trying to support other people who are doing it, and if you are kind of competition, if you're doing something similar to someone else, why not just allow them and you to promote each other's things? That would make it so much easier, so much better to support people with that way. So one of the other things that they mentioned with loneliness is really linked as well to income.
Oh yes.
Because if you've got low income, you've then not got the opportunity to necessarily socialize. You might be working 2 jobs, you might be stuck in, you might have a stigma around, I don't know, you might have a stigma around what you wear or anything like that, where, obviously we just want people to be wearing what they're comfortable with, and and being really proud about who they are. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to share my share a screen here, and
go for it.
It may let me, it may not. Let's have a look. Here we go, and it's going to share audio as well. Now, just in case there is any copyright kind of things with this, this is from the World Health Organization, and it is something that they shared within their the presentation today, and it's a 5-minute video. So hopefully, please someone YouTube tell me if the sound doesn't work, and me and Andy will just mute ourselves whilst I press play on this.
अकेलापन शायद ये सभी लोगों के लाइफ में होता है ना?
Being a single mom, you have dependents, and they're only depending on you. People don't believe that you can feel isolated and lonely even though you are busy.
I suppose I recognise that the darkness wasn't the drugs, the mental health distress, being homeless. The darkness was when I tried to engage with the world and step outside my world, and I encountered that message of, you're not welcome, you don't belong, you don't fit.
और सबसे ज़्यादा लोनली फील मुझे तब होता है जब इस टाइम पे जब पापा ड्रिंक करके आके लोगों से बात करना कम कर दिया था, खुद में टाइम ज़्यादा स्पेंड करना शुरू कर दिया था। सब कुछ
They don't really belong anywhere, and it all comes back to me not having somebody to tell what I'm going through.
At school, I never felt like I fitted. I had a bit of social anxiety as a child, and by the age of about 13, I was using heroin, LSD, you name it, and sort of was a way of self-medicating, I think, from that pain of not neglect, but just not feeling connected.
You can be surrounded with a lot of people, but still you feel lonely.
How do you describe the grief? And you do feel isolated because who do you really speak to?
結局最後一人になって、主人もいなくなって子供いなくなった時に、一人になった時に、兄弟でも分かる人と分かんない人いるんですよ。やっぱり同じね兄弟なんだけど、でも私自分の心を汲み取ってくれる人は他人でも分かる人は分かるんですよね。お話ししても。だからそういう人を選びましたね。
Me he quedado estancado y siento una soledad, siento como que ya no tengo nada que me amerite seguir adelante con mi vida.
And makes me really think like, oh wow, is this how life's supposed to be? Feeling empty like this?
सोशल वर्क मैंने कभी सोचा नहीं था कि मैं अपनी लाइफ में करूँगी, तो मैंने फिर सोशल सोसाइटी में जाना शुरू किया, कम्युनिटी में लोगों से बात करना शुरू किया, उनको इंगेज करना शुरू किया।
The advice I'd give people struggling with mental health and addiction issues is to get out and connect. Find someone that can light your spark of hope.
То мені дуже допомагало звертатися по допомогу попри страх, попри можливу стигму, попри все.
We can learn how to trust those who are outside of our group and creating more sense of belonging out of it.
And if we're thinking about inclusion and breaking down isolation and tackling loneliness, good conversations are at the heart of making the world more accessible.
でも誰かいるからお話聞いてくれるじゃないですか。くだらないことでもね。だからそれはすごく助かってます。
So, as much as there's bad in the world, but there's also good. When you meet somebody kind and when you have supportive system around you, there's a group of ladies. From time to time, they check on me. I think that's why I'm still standing.
या हमें लग रहा है कि हमारा उसके साथ बॉन्ड अच्छा बन रहा है.
There is hope. That's the big word, hope. If you can find hope, you can find anything.
So that showed lots of people from lots of different parts of the world. Now I am having problems putting my camera back on. I'll try to fix that in a second.
Oh, that was a lovely video, Scott. Thank you so much for showing that.
Yeah, that's okay, and it's it's obviously something that that I learned today. There was a few people on there that I've met before, but yeah, it was I feel it was it's a really good video. I felt it's obviously worth sharing with people, and it lets you know about lots of different people and lots of different reasons that people can be lonely. Some people think, if someone, as an example, is rich or wealthy or has lots of friends, that they're not lonely. But that's not the case. It can be anyone.
Definitely, yeah, and it was quite interesting because some of the groups I named earlier did appear in that video. People, did I mention people who have substance use issues?
I'm not sure if you did, but that guy David, he was in some of the groups that I did and ran for them. He's a really, really interesting person, and he was almost ostracized from his family as a result of his addiction, and then there was sort of policies put in place as well, so that really stopped him from being able to connect with his family because he was removed.
Oh gosh, poor lamb. But you see, addiction has no conscience. It doesn't care who it takes, doesn't care who it affects, doesn't care who it impacts or what they lose. It's no respect for race, for age, for socioeconomic status, nothing. So,
exactly, and there's lots of people with different types of addiction as well, and it doesn't just impact people who like to drink or people who like to take drugs. There's gambling, but there can be other addictions as well.
Yeah, I was going to go for gambling, and there are so many things that you see now on TV. I don't know. I mean, me and you are sort of similar age, but I don't know if you remember, like, after a certain hour, if you had Sky or cable back in the day, I'm really aging myself now, but if you had that, you could like place these bets and blah, 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 blah. There was no such thing as Gamble Aware. So goodness knows how many people are impacted from back then and, still doing it to this day. And it costs them more than just money. But in their social circles and their connections as well.
And you then have like relationship breakups as a result. You can have friends who don't invite you places. You can have so many different things. Looking at loneliness, they also confirmed how many people are impacted by loneliness. So if I was to say it's 1 in, how many people do you reckon are impacted by loneliness?
Oh gosh. How many guesses am I allowed?
1. We're not going to be here all day.
You could have said 3.
All right, go for 3 then. Go for 3.
Okay. So I think it's 1 in 50.
Okay, lower.
What, I mean, the ratio is lower. Oh my gosh.
So the number is the 50 needs to go down.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I'm gonna say 1 in 25.
Down again.
Oh my gosh, no. 1 in 10.
So it's 1 in 6. It's almost.
Oh my goodness.
It's almost 20% of people would fall under their definition of loneliness, and aside from people that lose their lives as a result of suicide, they reckon there's almost 1 million other deaths as a result of loneliness as well worldwide. But they can put down that can be because other parts, maybe they're not looking after their diet, maybe people aren't looking after lots of other different types of things, but the rest of their health kind of goes as a result of that social isolation and loneliness. And like in cost, in respects of like healthcare, education, employment, you know, it's billions that is that it costs countries.
I can imagine. I mean, when I used to go to, okay, so when I was a nurse, and I keep harking back to this, but honestly, you get to see the best and worst of humanity when you're nursing. Big up to all the nurses that are listening out there. And I remember I had a patient, and they were quite frail, quite elderly, and both their legs were in bandages. And there was so much that this person had achieved in their life, and there was virtually no evidence of it when you go into their home. Oh, it looks like I've bored Scott to death.
I was going off to see if I could fix my camera. By the way, I wasn't.
Oh, right. I just thought, you know, I'm just talking into, like, you know, the ether. But yeah, so this person, they could have had, if they'd lived with people, they would have had, their life would have been so different. And I remember it was Christmas time, and I went to go and do their legs, and this was Christmas Eve, so, you know, extra padding, yada, 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 just to make sure that, you know, they'll be cool for Christmas Day. And, oh gosh, I said to the person, what are you doing? And they said, oh, I'll just be here and watching the TV. And I said, aren't you going to go and see your family? And they said, oh, they don't want me sitting there, my bandages at the table. And I was like, okay then. And I actually left the patient, and I stood outside in the communal hallway and just wept. It's such an important family time. Culturally, Christmas is like a big thing in the Black community, and I just wept. I couldn't believe that somebody would be alone at such an important time of the year. It's just bizarre. I just couldn't handle it, and my poor brain. So, but I've so felt for that person. I so wanted to go back the next day, but I thought they may be weird and intrusive. But you know what else? What another kind of isolation that kind of links to the figures that you were talking about earlier. You know, you said there's not a lot of data. Well, there's less data for people who are over 60. There are some people who have isolation due to either living rurally or not being able to access the internet, WhatsApp, social media. That's what's that called? Is that called technological isolation?
Yeah. They kind of spoke about this as well. They spoke about technology in a few ways, digital tech, and they said, like, you know, you've got some people who haven't got access to it. Maybe that's due to finances. Maybe that's due to connection issues. But then you've also then got young people who kind of are stuck to like an iPhone or an iPad, or older people who are stuck to an iPhone or an iPad or any other brand that is available. And but what they're saying is, like, it's no good parents taking a phone off someone. That's no good, because all you're doing is you're removing their form of connection. What you need to do is you need to replace it.
Okay.
So
I'm interested in replacement.
Yeah, so you take the phone, but you take them to the park, or you take the phone, but you take them to like bowling or do something. But the problem is that there's how many parents would there be that go, right, you've used your screen time on your phone, you need to come off now. And the children don't have that interaction from the parents because the parents are on their phone.
On their phone, or in those parents' defense. You know, I'm always going to defend parents. Okay, but like now, my daughter just came in from school, and I'm like, yes, Mummy's on a YouTube live. So, thank heavens for my partner being able to keep said offspring amused. But you know, did you see my eyes went huge then when you said don't take the phone off them? I'm like, wait, what? That nearly made me keel off my seat.
Yeah.
I totally dig that, you know, do something with the child, but I've got two schools of thought on this, okay? So, number one, if I was to say that to not my daughter now, but you know, I've got two much bigger ones. If at the age of 15 years old, I said to my daughter, okay, come off your phone now, give me the phone, you have to spend some time with mama, I think she would have probably fled the house like she's on fire. That would have been like almost like a punishment.
Yeah.
And the other school of thought is, take the phone. This is what I mean about it being a societal issue, because parents have to work. We both have to work, and we both have to work probably around the same time. And that's if you're lucky, because otherwise you'll have one parent that works days, one parent that works nights, but you still need that double income coming in. When do the children get that time with one, that quality time with one or even both of you, because you've got to generate income. And that's what you see. If childcare was cheaper, if it was safer for the kids to go out and play, I mean, you know, the toss up, is it safer nowadays, or is it less, is it more dangerous nowadays, or are we just more aware of it? Right, yet to be decided. But you know, if we looked out for each other more, that would allow parents, working parents, to be able to just, you know, release the kids and the hounds, go out and play, and, you know, have a good time, come back when the street lights come on, sort of thing.
So like, I think like one of the points to your flashback and your daughter potentially going off, going off because of the board game scenario, is remember it's loneliness happens when your relationships do not match what you want or what you need. So it could be that the relationship that she wants at, you know, in her leisure time or in a percentage of her time isn't to be with parents. She actually wants to be with friends and peers. So if she was able to, let's say you was to take the phone off them and take 4 friends bowling as an example, and then you'll kind of pick them back up so you know they're somewhere safe. But what we're then saying is, you know, one of the biggest impacts into loneliness is poverty and people on low incomes. Well, let's say she's got 5 friends that she wants to go bowling with, but one can't afford to go. So 4 go.
The parent, you know, can't just afford to pay for 5 of them all at one go.
Well, I mean, even if the parent doesn't pay for 5, you know, let's say a game of bowling's 10, 15 quid, so you're talking like 20 quid. Let's say parent A, B, C, and D can go and afford it, but parent E can't afford it. So A, B, C, and D go bowling, and E doesn't. So E's then left out. I think that's where kind of income can have a, you know, one way that income can have an effect in, I guess, our society in the UK. But it's obviously it's different in different places, and you know, it's looking at ways that we can fix this, and are things getting better for people? Are things improving? And you know, the World Health Organization have done something now, but you know, what have we got to compare it against?
I was going to ask, what is the measure as well? How will they measure that any interventions that they do are successful? Don't get me wrong, I hope they are. I can't bear to hear of people being lonely.
And it's not really the interventions of the World Health Organization, it's more the interventions of the countries that are subscribing to the World Health Organization. So we've got like social prescribing where, you know, with loneliness effect, we should be able to go to like our healthcare or even pharmacies, and they should be able to help point signpost us to groups. But that's not something I actually knew happened. And with All for Inclusion, should we not be one of the people that people are being signposted to? I think so, but we're definitely not being signposted because I've not gone to anyone to say, hey, look, these are the groups that we do. If anyone fits our area of people, please signpost them to us. It's completely free. So that's something that I think we could definitely do better as in All for Inclusion. And the other thing, I think, you know, why are we not doing a survey, and how often should we do a survey? So I was sort of thinking about this, and I was thinking, do we do a survey once every 3 months or once every 4 months? Once every 6 months. If we do a survey once every 3 months, we're kind of getting the seasons, you know. Are we then seeing a dip in the winter and an improvement in the summer? Is that not the case? You know, we could rule that out, but would you fill in a form? Would you fill in a survey every 3 months?
I would fill one in every 6 months, but you're right with 3 months being just in time with like the solstices and the equinox. So that would be really good. And I suppose one of the questions could be, you know, do you have or do you suspect you have seasonal affective disorder?
Yeah.
Well? Ow, my cat's just decided to claw my foot for I don't know what
Awesome.
reason.
Have you not got one of your dogs attack you yet? Because that likes to happen.
My cat is actually now chasing my feet around the couch. Nice. Oh gosh, there's okay. And you know, isolation. If you can, get a pet. If going out is not your thing, do not get a dog. But you know, a goldfish, hamster. Hamsters are actually quite cool little pets. They can be very sociable, very nice to handle. But of course, I'm an animal lover. I'm going to say that. And no, I'm not sounding flippant about it. But anyway, sorry, back before the cat was clawing my foot, we were talking about a survey. I would definitely fill in a survey. But I think I count myself lucky to be quite outspoken about things. I think if your loneliness has got to the point where you feel so bad discussing it, you may not want to. But when we get on, I think we should do this, Scott. I think we should definitely get a survey out. And I would encourage everybody that's listening, please, please, please look out for and complete our little survey.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
think it'll be really good. Yeah,
So,
and you know, when people join the groups, our All for Inclusion groups, that would be wonderful.
yeah, so like my mum is watching. She said she used to work with social prescribers, so that's good. So that's a job for her. She can. I think that's her volunteering to say that she's gonna take ownership of that. We'll wait to see how long it takes for her to say no. That's not what I'm saying. But what it would be quite cool, you know, because I know there are a few people listening. Is, you know, how regular do you think we should be doing surveys? Is 3 months too soon? I think it is. Is 6 months? Would you fill in, you know, a similar survey every 6 months? I think that's really important. And obviously, we need to make sure we're gathering information so we're being able to pinpoint minority communities and say people who are part of this community suffer more than people who are part of that community. And that will allow us as individuals to potentially tailor some of what we do as well. to support the minority communities, or even like we're saying, you know, we should be standing beside, we shouldn't be reinventing the wheel, we should be standing beside people. Well, if we're standing beside people, you know, we can even give our data to a charity that supports one of the minority communities and say, look, this, you know, hopefully this will help and support some of what you do. But
anonymized, of course.
Anonymized, well, yeah. Obviously, I feel it should be anonymized, and all of our surveys are. But I also think that when we're talking about loneliness, people should have the option, if they wish to, of not doing it anonymously and being given a chance to speak, because obviously a lot of people who are suffering with loneliness, you know, they don't feel heard. So if they don't feel heard, we need to be able to potentially give them a voice, either anonymously or publicly through the survey. They may want to come on and talk. They may want to do something like that. But yeah, like the strategies that basically they're looking at kind of putting into place is making sure that there's the infrastructure, societal in place. So social infrastructure, community groups, which is where we fit in, you know, especially with disability and people living alone being two of the areas there that we work a lot with, and we put on lots of different groups that people come to, and then it's that social prescribing as well as the other thing. And you know, I'm hoping that, you know, maybe as a result of this, that there'll be more funding that goes in to looking at loneliness, to say, you know, groups like ourselves, that which is our main focus is loneliness and social isolation. You know, will we be able to get some really decent funding to make a real difference there? That would be good.
Absolutely. Can you still hear me, Scott? I think my internet kind of went a bit.
Yeah,
funny
can still hear you. I think there must be a bit of a problem with this particular upload when it comes to the cameras as well, because mine's been off for quite a while and I've not been able to fix it. I think the only way I could potentially fix it is by shutting down. But we are at the point where we are sort of wrapping up anyway. But I know there's some people watching it, just to help us with getting our YouTube channel, because I think we do need to concentrate on our YouTube channel a bit, but getting our YouTube channel found by more people and stuff. We mind giving this live show a little bit of a thumbs up for us, because that will definitely help. We'll hopefully get some clips from this as well, which we'll be able to put out in shorts. But if anyone's got any questions, please put them in there.
Yeah. Come on, we're not shy, are we, Scott? Come on, ask some questions.
Andrea
Give us
wants
some
a
suggestions.
question.
What else might you like to see All for Inclusion do? Because our whole raison d'etre, our whole reason for being, is to alleviate loneliness in the disabled community. Am I right, Scott?
It is. I wish this question was in the chat, but it's not. So I can't say it, can I? I was going to say someone's put in the chat. I was going to say someone's put in the chat about the bright colours in your front room and the yellow.
Oh, about my groovy wallpaper now.
But no one's mentioned it.
Oh, what was it you said? I said, oh, my partner's moving in. Has he bought his sunglasses for your living room? Hardy, hardy.
Yeah, yeah. You definitely should invest in some new sunglasses.
He's got
but
some
yeah,
groovy
there's like a 90 odd page document if people want to read that. What I'll do is I'll put in the chat some of the reports and things like that, so then people can look at them if they wish to. That's one. So this is two.
Cool.
And I will be getting. I've been asked to get back in touch with one of the secretariats at the World Health Organization. We're going to have a look and see if there's anything that we can sort of team up with and do in and around the disability sector, especially. They're very keen on that, and they're very keen on us supporting them with that. So that would be really cool.
Oh, that would be brilliant. And you know what, Scott? I just wanted to say about loneliness, okay? I don't think it's enough to just try and encourage people to connect more, because, marginalized identities have been like waving this flag for years, and it's not just about connecting more, because sometimes access, safety and inclusion, they are really key elements that are just missing, and then people can't connect, so you can't just sit cross-legged and do yoga out of your way of kind of exclusion. Isn't that right, though?
Yeah. One of the things is, we look at loneliness, and it's the people that we want and we need. So what that means is, if you're connecting with people, are they the right people to be connecting with? Because if they're not, that's not going to improve loneliness. That's actually going to make you feel more lonely. And if you don't feel safe, and you don't feel secure, and you don't feel trusted, if you don't trust the people around you, again, it's not going to improve. It's not going to improve loneliness. It's only really going to improve loneliness if you trust those people around you. So it's really down to quality over quantity when you're connecting with people.
Yeah, definitely quality over quantity. And I'd say from a corporate perspective, what people will need to realize, there are people who are in work, all isolated, and to combat that, and if we're really serious about tackling social isolation, we need intersectional policies, and they reflect lived experience as broadly as they can. Public places also need to be safe, because we know it's not for trans people and cis women. We know it's not. Services need to be inclusive. And of course, what am I going to go on about? Staff networks. They do actually provide a real sense of belonging, safe spaces in your organizations, which I'm obviously more than happy to help with, because loneliness, it thrives in systems that when people are forgotten. So, we can't be leaving anyone behind.
No. And then also, have a think about how you help loneliness with people, and how you can contribute to loneliness with people. So how can you help it? It could be a smile, it could be saying hello to someone, it could be holding a door open to someone. That can make a huge difference sometimes in people's lives. And it's if you're part of a community like ours or someone else's, it's checking in with people, especially if they've had a bit of a hard time, or if they're about to celebrate a birthday. I mean, you mentioned Christmas, and it's if someone's alone on Christmas, how can you make that better for them? Because it doesn't necessarily mean you have to go there. And we opened up All for Inclusion on Christmas Day this year.
Yes.
So we had our art session open on Christmas Day. So
last Christmas.
Last year, yeah. So
I remember I was really poorly, but yeah, that's right, because people do get lonely around big celebratory periods, Christmas, New Year. For New Year, we did actually put it out there that anybody who is local and identifies as LGBTQIA+, if they wanted, could just pop round and see the New Year in with us, which, don't know if we can do that every year, but I'll do it every year that I possibly can. But obviously this year I'm going to need somebody else's permission to do. But yeah, because we know that people who come out can face an awful lot of backlash, and they can lose all the social connections they have. And you were saying about people who migrate from one country to another. How lonely is it if you don't speak the language, if the food and the climate and everything is different? There's actually a project being run in the NHS at the moment called the Ask Auntie Project. Have I bored you about this already?
No, you haven't, no.
Okay, so it's a project which supports internationally educated healthcare professionals, and we got aunties and uncles like me, and we basically signpost people to where they can buy food that's familiar, where they can get their hair done, where they can buy their skin and body care products, how the NHS operates, the cultural expectations here, and all those kind of little things that get left behind. So we're there to kind of support and advise younger healthcare workers and internationally educated healthcare workers who are coming out and coming to this country to help out. And that does help alleviate some of the loneliness, because they do have their aunties and uncles to chat to.
Yeah.
There you go. Oh, my dogs are about to kick off. It must be 4:30.
It is 4:30. It is 4:30. They've been very good. So thank you to everyone who's listened in. Couldn't get it working on LinkedIn, I don't think. So I think I'm just going to put all of our lives on YouTube now, because it seems pretty simple getting this one up. So I think that's probably the way forward. So thank you all for coming on. Thank you, Andy.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.